Hi. Hi you guys. Ella here in her really cute little Disney princess pajamas. I'm dying over them. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about something I'm really passionate about, breastfeeding. August is actually Breastfeeding Awareness Month, and so I thought it'd be fun to sit down and do a little video about my experience breastfeeding and just some tips and things that worked for us. Ella? I don't know how much you can contribute, but you like to breastfeed? August also marks coming up on 1 full year of breastfeeding Ella. Yes, Ella is 1 next week. I can't even believe it. Do you want to go play? I am a huge advocate for breastfeeding for several reasons. First off, there's just really nothing that can completely replace it. It is an amazing, amazing thing. Our bodies are so incredible, you guys. It truly is liquid gold, as they say. Just do some research on it. It's pretty incredible what the body does and what the milk can do. It's awesome. There's also huge financial benefits from breastfeeding. Not only do you not have to pay for formula, but you also, if you breastfeed, studies have shown that your child is less likely to go to the hospital, so you cut down on those payments. And anyway, it's awesome. Do some research into it. Another huge benefit to breastfeeding is just the amazing bond that you have with your child. It really is amazing. I can't really find a better word to describe it than that. It's just really unique, and it builds this amazing trust between mother and child. And I get emotional thinking about like having to stop doing it, which is really funny because in the beginning stages of breastfeeding, I would cry when I had to breastfeed again because I didn't want to do it. So if you're like that, if you're having that kind of experience, hopefully something I say in this video will help you to push through that beginning stage that can be quite challenging for some of us, and you can have a really awesome, successful breastfeeding experience. If you are currently breastfeeding or you want to make the goal to breastfeed, hopefully you can glean something from this. Sorry, Ella's in here making cute little sounds and playing with her toys. We are in her nursery. Where was I? Yes. Hopefully you can learn something from me and my experience. I remember when I was first learning to breastfeed, I was really stressed out. It was really overwhelming. You know, that's the thing about breastfeeding is I think a lot of us think, oh, it's natural, right? It's a very natural thing. We're just going to know how to do it. Our babies are going to know how to do it. But the reality is even though there are things that are instinctual, it's something that you need to learn. For example, a baby's born and they instinctually know how to suck. That's just something they know how to do. But they don't know how to breastfeed. You need to learn how to do that. I'm going to break this down into like 3 general tips. And the first one is education. Like I was saying, it's just not something you're going to know how to do. It's not something your child's just going to know how to do. Whenever you don't know how to do something, what do? We learn how to do it. We either take a class or we have some kind of teacher. Yeah, Ella agrees. So I urge you to take a breastfeeding class. There are so many resources today. You can go take them at your hospital, usually provides them, community centers. You can actually pay to meet with a lactation consultant. That's what I did. I found an amazing lactation consultant here in Utah, and you can even take some of these classes online. The lactation consultant I used was Lindsay Shipley from Lactation Link. She's awesome, and she actually provides some of her courses online. So if you're remote or you don't have time to drive somewhere, you can still get this education online. It's just so important that you have that foundation before you start breastfeeding. It's going to hopefully and potentially bypass any issues you have after. I'm really glad that I took that class. I feel like I knew so much going into it and had a lot of questions answered that I wouldn't have had if I didn't take the class. The next big tip is support. And this is honestly, like, I would probably say the most important thing if you're going to have a successful breastfeeding experience. You need to have a support system in place. Now that can be friends, your mom, someone who understands your goals, your needs. I would say you should have someone who's breastfed before. I don't think that's necessarily necessary, but it's so helpful to have that feedback and that advice. But also in terms of support, I highly recommend you utilize a lactation consultant. So I actually had Lindsay, my lactation consultant, come to my house and help me. You know, I had taken the classes and I'd done all these things, but it's just a really stressful time. And Ella didn't actually hit her birth weight at her first doctor's appointment, and I was like devastated. I remember just crying my eyes out, feeling like I hadn't been feeding her and all this stuff. And when you're in that state, it's so easy to just want to quit. You know, it's like, obviously this isn't working and I'm just gonna feed her a bottle, and your mindset, it's so easy to find excuses or reasons of why it's just better off that you don't do it, when it can really be such a quick fix. If you have, my pediatrician was really supportive, which I think was great in regards to me breastfeeding. You know, she didn't try to push a bottle on me because she knew I wanted to feed Ella this way and get the benefits of that, and she totally agreed and supported me. So with her help and the lactation consultant, it only took one visit. You know, I wasn't really holding her the best way I could, and that was seriously, that was such an easy fix. Sometimes your baby could have a tongue tie, or there's the little things that can be corrected quite easily. So don't give up at the first sign of an issue, because it could really be manageable. Some of the best advice I got in the beginning was from my sister. She was like, just make it 6 weeks. And I don't think there's necessarily a magic number, but the idea was like, at a certain point, you will have gotten the hang of it and you'll see the progress, and that's so motivating. I remember in the beginning, I was just so obsessed with trying to like nail down this latch, and I was stressed out. I literally spent all day just like Googling and reading the internet, and that's one reason why I want to put this video out here to encourage you or give you hopefully some kind of advice that might work for you in whatever situation you're in. Take it day by day. I know it's so overwhelming. Don't be overwhelmed. Like, have that support system. I was texting my sister, my friends, my mom, my lactation consultant, as well as talking to my pediatrician, and I know for a fact, 100%, I would not have continued breastfeeding if I didn't have that support system by my side, encouraging me and helping me achieve that goal. And you know, Ella just had a really tiny mouth. It took us a while to get the latch down. And I would say it took about like 2 months before we were just like super comfortable breastfeeding. So it can take some time, but I'm here to tell you it is so worth it. I'm so glad I did it and pushed through those initial stages that were hard. And that brings me to number 3. My next tip is tools. You need to have the proper tools. So you have your education, you have your support system. One of the main tools I used while breastfeeding was a pump. Every single person who breastfeeds should have a pump, okay? Let me tell you why. I would not have been able to breastfeed long term if I didn't have a pump. Just wasn't realistic for me to stay home all day, every day, and be there when Ella needed to eat. That's just, it's not possible. And I mean, I wasn't even really going out much, okay? I mean, I'm with Ella at home like 99% of the time, but there were times where I want to go out, or you need to go out, or especially if you're working, you're gonna have to have a pump to be able to pump milk for your baby when you're not there. Alright, so this kind of goes against all the advice you'll hear. I was advised against this, but I did it anyway, and here's why, and it worked for me. They tell you not to introduce in the beginning like bottles or pacifiers because you don't want the child to have nipple confusion issues. I totally understand that, but I definitely introduced bottles and pacifiers as well as breastfeeding in the begining, and here's why. I never wanted her to ever prefer one over the other. You hear about these babies who refuse to take a bottle, and I knew I could not be in that situation. I could not be in that situation. So I went back and forth quite a bit, mostly breastfeeding obviously, because in the beginning it's so important that you're doing that to really establish that latch and just to teach them how to do it. But there was times where I was so sore and just so over it, I would pump and give Ella a bottle just to give myself the break. If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to maintain it. So I do suggest doing that occasionally if you need to. I didn't do a nipple shield. Lots of people find that to be helpful, but I didn't want to become dependent on that. I just really wanted to get to a place where I could just breastfeed her. So I gave myself that break occasionally, and I do feel that like her having the bottle introduced occasionally made it so when I did need to leave for the first time, there was no issue there with her taking a bottle. Another awesome thing about pumping is you can store all that milk. So for example, Ella was an amazing sleeper. Thank you. She was incredible. She'd sleep through the night, but my milk hadn't made it quite to that point yet. I couldn't sleep all night. So I would wake up early in the morning, I would pump that milk, and I would save it. So in the morning, I would pump and save that milk, and I have so much milk, you guys. I would use that milk whenever I leave. I still have some. I'll be able to be giving her some of that even after I'm done breastfeeding. It's really awesome to be able to save that milk, especially in the beginning when you're really engorged and you're still establishing a milk supply. It's really awesome for that. Munchkin actually has a line called Latch, and they have bottles designed where the nipples are really similar to a breast. So yeah, it's designed to reflex and just kind of act as a true breast. So if you're worried about nipple confusion, this is a really awesome tool to utilize, and it just kind of helps that transition or that back and forth between breast and bottle. Their entire line is really awesome, and they have a lot of different tools that will help you reach your long-term breastfeeding goals, so I'll link that below. Another big reason why I think every person who breastfeeds should have a breast pump is because it really helps you maintain your milk supply. So when you do need to leave and you've pumped a bottle for your baby to drink, you need to make sure you've pumped for that feed. Let me explain it a little better. Okay, so there's a phrase they use in the breastfeeding community called use it or lose it. If you don't breastfeed often, you're gonna lose your milk supply. If you're not breastfeeding often, you're telling your body you don't need that milk. So anytime I would leave and Ella would get a bottle, I would always make sure I pumped for that missed feed. You never want your I don't know what words to use, boobs, breasts. You don't ever want your breast to be off schedule is kind of how I look at it. You know, a lot of people will claim that they didn't have enough milk supply. It's actually incredibly rare to not produce enough milk for your baby. What happens is I don't think people realize how vital this use it or lose it is. If you leave and you give your daughter a bottle and you don't pump for that, one time of missing can dramatically reduce your milk supply, and you have to take the time to build it back up. And that's the beauty of it. If you have gotten to a place where you feel like your milk supply is low, you can build it back up. There's foods you can eat, pills you can take, just breastfeeding and pumping extra times. I would always pump every night before I went to bed, just to keep my milk supply up and to have a little bit more milk for her. That was something that was really important to me. I wanted to make sure I had a strong milk supply for her, and I know it's because of these things I was really diligent about that I was able to do that. So don't fall into that idea. A lot of people will try and tell you why they couldn't breastfeed or like why you don't need to be breastfeeding. It takes a lot of work to breastfeed. I'll just say it like that. And you can do it. Very rarely are there reasons why you can't. So if it's a goal you have, don't let others kind of plant those seeds in your head or discourage you. Talk to a lactation consultant, talk to your pediatrician. They will totally help you and let you know what is achievable or not for you. So those are kind of my 3 big general tips: education, support, proper tools. Honestly, I so remember what it felt like. If you guys need an extra person in your support system, I'm obviously not a lactation consultant, but send me a message. I'll give you my phone number. We can chat. I'd love to help you out. Again, I'm so happy I pushed through the rough beginning, and if you're having that, I feel for you. Reach out to me. I'd love to help you. Anything I mentioned, I will link below in this video. And if you guys like videos like this, I'd be happy to do some more. I know I got a lot of feedback on natural, unmedicated childbirth tips, so I can put something like that together if you're interested. Let me know. I'd love to kind of share a first-time mom's first year with you. I put all this information together in a blog post. I'll link that below so you guys can check it out. Thanks for listening to this long video and for putting up with Ella in the background. But if you're watching this, you're a mom, so you probably understand. All right, I'll talk to you next time. Bye, guys.